In Venezuela, the government denounced political destabilization attempts by mafias operating in Colombia and the United States. In Ecuador, the death toll resulting from the increased violence over the weekend in the city of Guayaquil rose to 17. And in Palestine, authorities report over 63 dead and 93 injured after new Israeli massacres in the last 24 hours. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the government denounced political destabilization attempts by the mafias operating in Colombia and the U.S. The defense minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, rejected the gangs that are living in Miami and Bogota, who are trying to generate violence and disturbances in the Venezuelan population, ahead of the presidential elections on July 28th. The official detailed that with the command of President Nicolas Maduro, the awareness of the Venezuelan people and with the commitment of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, peace and tranquility in the nation has been achieved. Likewise, Venezuela's Foreign Minister Ivan Hill warned about a presumed armed offensive devised by the Venezuelan far-right to attempt against national sovereignty through a libertarian movement formed by mercenaries and directed from Washington. In the Ecuadorian city of Guayaquil, authorities report over 17 violent deaths during the Easter holiday. The Interior Ministry informed that this Sunday night, several individuals opened fire against a group of people who were in the public road in the sector of El-14. The crime left 3 people dead and 3 others wounded, while on Saturday night, criminal groups carried out a massacre in Guasmo, south of Guayaquil, leaving 9 people dead and others injured. In this regard, the investigative unit began an operation to find the whereabouts of the perpetrators. We now quickly go to Venezuela live for the Attorney General, Tarek William Saab, is providing statements. Let's listen.
Al mismo tiempo,
at the same time,
revelador de la hazaña,
reveal the conquer
de la malévola
of the wicked attitude
de ese micro
from
factor
this
extremista
far-right extreme factor
totalmente apátrida que no le importa
against the homeland that doesn't care at all. It doesn't matter for them, the life of the Venezuelans, not at all. That haven't ceased to grow every time in and out of the country with total disregard of the morals, speaking lies, rotten lies, revealing a plan that worth to remember that we're on April had a first moment and victory after on the 11th of April 2002 and hasn't ceased from that moment, but it's impressive to see how in January, by example, they have planned to start the year making a bloodbath in the Táchira state and making a scale, particularly in Marinas until Caracas, to light up the country, to make a fire in the country, pretending to make a third phase from the terrorism brutal plan. So we're going to show today a part of this sequence. Particularly, this will be the 9th action that publicly we've been not only unveiled but also investigated and processed, adding it to the last fourth of the 2023, one of the worst fears of the comic assassin in trying the magnicide from high authorities and representatives, and then in January 24th had its climax this sequel of conspiracy with the brutal plan of the white bracelet, where a point of attention is sent to us, but it's not surprising that a TV station seek to his accomplices. So I am denouncing newly how Uribe and its media inside of Colombia and the military barracks of the CIA in Bogota that led it to exponential levels of growth to attack from there to Venezuela. How? By example, this TV station, Caracol, oriented to the extreme factors from the anti-Venezuelan ideology in a criminal and addictive way, recently made a report that is a mock of a report of a journalist's work to literally say that André Heredia is a person that crossed the Darien and poor thing. He came to a house and picked some people unarmed, all of them, just to get into Venezuela for only electoral politics matter. Angelo Heredia, when the plan we already know, because he's been convicted, that is literally to assault the military barracks of San Cristo and then later on take the Táchira state governation and take the governor and to proceed to these unlawful actions until Caracas to make a rise in Venezuela and try to commit magnicide. So they introduced them as almost as pets, good people, every single one of them, with those records, because Angelo Heredia was detained in 2016 and then he escaped in 2017 when he was put in jail trying to blow up the seat of the civilian Plaza Venezuela. So this is impressive to see how, to the international media, all violence and criminal actions and coup d'etat attempts, assault into military facilities, it is presented as a fight of the state to neutralize these actions as a political persecution against the freedom heroes. So when one of the main characters of this criminal stories, Carratu Molina, was chief of the military house, the author of the state terrorism most terrible that Venezuela saw, that promote forced disappearance in the 60s in the south area, and then by a second time, president has in his track to committed the massacre, the worst massacre of the whole America, known as El Caracazo. This Carratu Molina, on this March 30th, only a couple hours ago, running from the Venezuelan Mario Iván, manifest in his account of X account before Twitter that contacts that were being made. He of course is scared because he knows that we know. So he's trying to step ahead, a false step, because we already know what we're going to do. So he manifests in his X account in Twitter that military Venezuelan has been in contact to organize a movement for alleged freedom that is not more than an euphemism to refer to a golpist movement and criminal movement. So This is not saying the public ministry or any representative of the Venezuelan state. Is saying this ex-military that is being searched by the justice, that had a wide record, criminal record, next to one of the most criminal presidents that the Venezuelan history has seen. So I wanted to show you in the screen both messages that he published in favor. This is the first one. We're seeing here the first one that is saying, I'm going to allow myself to read it. It's alert to the Venezuelan citizens and American authorities. So he's alerting several actions. They're trying to contact military in the United States. I've been informed that military has been contacted in the Haitian operation, and by the civil population also are contacted to a minister of Chavez, trying to bind him as a alleged leader of this new deceiving to Venezuelans. But when he was in a white bracelet, so let's see the second part of the message. I see myself in the obligation to publicly denounce the ones who are trying to bind me in activities that not real to the country. But when he was in white bracelet, the actions were. I make the denounce because they're not only binding me without my consent, but are trying to deceive civilians and people of good faith. So the option that I propose is an option of coordinate task. Venezuelans without political affiliations, first. And second, let's explain then what implies this force action. So this man is proposing criminal action. So later on he says, I'm not going to get involved in criminal actions with parties already qualified as bandits seeking main role character state. So what is happening in that sector? Extreme sector, criminal sector, mercenary, what? They're trying to arrive to this point. One of the main characters of the white bracelet organization. It takes our viewpoint, and we understand that it's already known that in Venezuela is a minority, a micro-minority, even more every single day, that Venezuelan, the regular Venezuelan mother and father, worker, young people, elders, all the Venezuelan family, we want peace. We reject absolutely action of this kind as is being proposed now by Carreto Molina. So you can imagine the re-diet this Haitian organization. You have to be really a sociopath or a terrorist from birth. So it runs in their blood veins to after what happened in the pandemic in May 2020, where they have mercenaries and try to hijack terrorist agencies, where none of them are detained by the justice, that later end up Grudeau demanding Sutin to self-declare president because he didn't pay. So you can imagine this. So we have the duty to show you these things, to unveil how all of this is a shame, because it is still, for these plans, Colombia and the United States, the main basis to promote these actions, these criminal actions against Venezuela, because where and train the mercenaries and the traitors to the homeland in Colombia. Who supported them? The government of Duque. It gave the training fields to facilitate all in Colombia, where they came from, United States. So I'm seeing that I want to remember what happened in the Hediondo operation. It was an operation of maritime incursion by mercenaries and ex-military from Venezuelan corps. One was organized by Jordan Grupo, alongside with other. And on the May 3rd of 2006, in the main, let's remember that it was signed a contract, a binding contract, with a total payment of $11.9 million to carry on this action that pretended to get power in Venezuela. It was prepared for more than a year, and 300 men were trained to execute it. So they want to free incursion in this operation, Herion. But the time we affirmed that it was evident of these operations, and the responsibles to organize and fund these operations were United States and Colombia. Jordan Grudo and other direct subjects of this operation remain without prosecution. But here in Venezuela, 90 people are being prosecuted for this brutal action. Among them, 55 of them are admitted the charges. Now, Caracosta say that it's not going to incur in this operation, but say that he prefers the option of a joint force with Venezuela. So what's that? A joint force, an operative force, is a temporary unit established to work in an operation, a secret operation of a terrorist character. So it's been, after its mission is accomplished, it's get dissolved. So it's a military origin terminology initially introduced by the United States Army, which can be understood coming from an ex-military, is that a unity that we presume by mercenaries is going to be formed to solve a specific task that will be what it will be, from attempts against the authorities of the government, magnitude attempts, assault to break, the same thing that we've been seeing during this whole time. According to our sources, the ex-minister that Garretú speaks, it was an ex-minister of Chavez. It will be Felipe Pérez Marte. Pérez Martí will be the ideologist of the July 17th of 2017. The images in cards that add up can be read, and the thing that we cannot name still, and we cannot describe in another way, as a severe personality disorder, continues in another phase, and she thinks that is a candidate even when she's a person that claimed for military actions, that self-named ambassador against the OEA, that asked for sanctions, that publicly said that she speaks to military to get over the power, that even signed the document of the Carmonazo, from the 300 that they signed, this person shows. Given legitimacy to the Carbono dictator in 2002, the same person that signed the project La Salida that had an insurrectional plan to make a bloodbath in the country in 2014 in February, where more than 40 deaths and 2,000 injured. And then April, May in 2017, with more 140 deaths and 2,000 injured. Those are responsible, the ones that are trying to get the power against the lawful state. They burn out people, they kill people, they shoot people, they burn facilities of public institutions. I remember that when I was public defender, 4 facilities were burned to the ground, and the rest of them, all of them, were damaged during this march. A part of the public facilities that were burned also. It's good to remember that this person, Pérez Martí, as an ideologist of the July of 2007, where the car's image of add up and the responsible of what are we telling here, summoned to this also will be involved Javier Pérez Quintero, one of the organizers of the operations Idiom. I wanted to show this sign of that time where the people decide, July 2017. Everything in charge of this subject, Felipe Pérez Martí, according to our sources, revealing and expressing that is the one his name, but Cargo Molina, to this attempt. I want to remember that Pérez Martí published a post in 2020 considering in a positive way, the Hedion operation, and among other things he said, I'm sure that sooner or later it will have success, even when it didn't at the beginning in the best way possible. Javier Nieto made clear that this is only the beginning, because there's other groups implied. It wasn't an immediate operation with have consequences in a tactical way. The things in the country, and also was what it was prepared for the rest of the institution. So it's really listen for them to write everything here from the outside. Why he doesn't come to Venezuela and organize everything? Later on, when the apprehension order is dictated, the warrant is dictated, in base of everything that we've been adding as a warrant element, because the public ministry is for that, to defense of the people, young people, elders, to make justice in cases that has to do with common elements, with fight against the corruption, fight against the human rights violations, against everything that implies, obviously, to be outside of the law. But when the public minister carry on actions to fight this terrorist group, they start to make it less, to lessen these actions, saying what they the ones they have apprehension, all those in warrants that don't have the right. But if they were in the United States or here, in that case, they were criminals and terrorists. They were would ask death penalty or life sentence. So it carries on in that way and presented a second case. Everything is a shame because this people is clumsy, is eager to power. They're so blind that simply committed mistakes and they uncovered themselves in their actions because they're only working screens and they hate to everything that Venezuelan represents. Suffering, how they suffered seeing these images of Venezuelans going on vacations, even foreigners enjoying from the Holy Week, from their families. Some of them, bitterness, of course, the fewer, they criticize why they were going out to enjoy. So what supposed to do? Stay in a cave, in a basement? For God's sake. So let's see what are we going to mention next. Their urge to the insurrection, a subject that is a warrant, a criminal, Uribe. So who can believe in Uribe? Only so psychopath. A man that alone, being the boss of the institute in Colombia, in the time of the criminal, the most hard criminal that I'm referring to, Pablo Escobar, who was the president of the airport institute that allowed all the flights of the planes of the drug dealer. That's a Popeye. We're not going to be surprised Popeye were killed because of him. Because a person that was healthy turned out to have cancer. Because he denounced him to be part of a drug dealing traffic. So this subject appears to be next to this character because they seek each other. They seek for each other. So you have to own toxic blood to have to be next to Uribe. To go next to Uribe to get a picture as a war trophy. So that's per se as the way it's presented the thing. A hint that something ugly is being worked. So let's see for yourself that a journalist published on the last March 5th a message in X. Let's see, please, on the screen. And I'm going to read it anyways. So let's see the content that this coward published. That obviously don't live in Venezuela, but what it's doing is obviously binding to everything that he can speak or do inside or outside of Venezuela, because he wrote what we're going to see in screen. What Maria Corina is building, it transcends the electoral. The mood next to her is insurrectional. Let's see what insurrectional means. It implies war. It implies subvert the order, to provoke death and danger through the weapons. And we saw what he posted there. The mood is insurrectional, so it must keep a track to free elections. For that, the organization is making a justification to have the electoral, to transcend the electoral power. For that, the organization is making a justification of the electoral. So the insurrectional plan has as a base, as an excuse, the electoral. The electoral is like, let's see, the way, because what they're trying to seek is the insurrection. Likewise, in another message, he speaks in a bad way on the authorities that are lawful and summons to subleration. In that sense, the prosecutor has designated an investigation team to search for this subject that he committed and he expressed that he committed. So it's good to remember that this subject works currently for a far-right media in the United States, aligned with the most extreme sectors of this country. Currently, we have it located. I'm not going to say where, but it's always good to highlight and remember how Colombia is oftenly used to harm Venezuela. Let's remember that the CIA General called us all there. Let's remember that in August of 2019, General Secretary Mike Pompeo created the business unit for Venezuela, located in Bogota, was created. This ratified Colombia as the main platform against Venezuela. I said it on the pre-words of this speech that the TV station Caracol of Colombia emitted a report trying to wash the faces of the responsibles of this operation that are already being convicted and confesses, to show them as an innocent person using the Darien to get away, and then they came to be in empty houses without not doing anything because they didn't want to do anything. There's nothing to go into a military facility, to take a governation, to install themselves to attempt a magnicide. So we found a video where it was declared all the plans for the arm attacks and the attempt to put a bomb in the facility. So obviously we're making official announcement for this, all this media, particularly for the Caracol TV station, to be executing a mediatic operation to disqualify all the work that has been done, the public ministry has been done, because images of ours in where the law and the Constitution refer, we were to maintain the peace in the country, and they taken those images to do the opposite, to distort and make an apology to the crimes. Put it there, Caracol, write it on. You're apologizing the crimes and the criminal actions and terrorism. It's a shame. How are you hitting low, that low, a TV station, instead of founding values, family values and good values, are dedicated to this kind of actions? What is we are answering here now and facing now? In this false report, it's not been cited any Colombian sources. It's built with declaration of the own subjects with alleged reports from the CIA that are capable of lying to justify war, as in Iraq war. Do you remember that they said it was a mistake, that there was no weapons, there was anything, and they caused more than 1 million of death, and they ruined the country. The alleged massive destruction weapons that never were found. Caracol Television is a property of Santo Domingo Group, the richest family of Colombia, with a fortune of $12,000 million. $12 million. Sure is selling arepas in Bogota. Selling what? $12 million? $12,000 million? Only one TV station? Of course. Owned 23 communication medias in this country. Enemy of Venezuela. When the Colombian people love the Venezuelan people because we are totally united by historical ties, and because let's not forget that they lived together among first, second, and third generation, 6 million of Colombians. But we ask ourselves why Caracol Television did this report, making a sense of this subject. What is coming ahead? They're preparing the way. What it is? The thing that Caratu Molina denounced in a self-confession is a denounce, but it's a confession too. So to finish, I want to remember again, because it's always good to remember, how in January the white bracelet operation was dismantled, and we informed of 4 previous conspirations dismantled, and that we have the threat of magnicide against the Republic President, and the attempt of the attack to the military facility, and the Guarinas case that allowed us to know a new actions in where it was pretended to, in a new phase, to generate protests and from Cucuta until Táchira. Then we have the detention on the March 25th of 2 armed subjects in the inscription of the candidacy of the Republic President Nicolás Maduro Moros until the National Electoral Council, just 20 meters away from the presidency stand. So it's a permanent panorama of destabilizing actions, with the participation of foreign super participation. I want to give a new reference of it, the genocide in Gaza, because the world already abandoned of word and action this brutal Holocaust. But they're washing into calling political prosecutors into Venezuela. On March 25th, only 7 days ago, the Security Council approved a ceasefire in Gaza after 5 months, killing almost 40,000 people. During the Ramadan holy month, the holy month of Ramadan, which is sacred for Muslims, a ceasefire. This resolution is being violated by Israel, that continue to kill Palestinians with the bombings, with the restriction to humanitarian aid. According to surveys from last Sunday, almost 33,000 of deaths since the beginning of the war. More than 70% of them women and children. Besides, at least 30 children had died through malnutrition because of the famine. Over 2 million of displaced citizens of a population of 2.3 million. Last March 26, the representative for the Palestinian presented
cual pedía sanciones y un embargo de armas contra Israel, después de lo cual
asking for sanctions and a weapon embargo of Israel.
qué triste, señor.
How sad.
Pero es la realidad.
But is it reality? This is reality we're living. Eduardo Galeano said it in a magistral book, The Backward World, but that book is short, what we're seeing now. While that United States approved a new weapon convoy to Israel to finish Gaza with bombs and planes for $3,800 million. So they just approved almost $4,000 million. The United States to give bombs and planes to continue committing a genocide in Gaza, plus killing them from hunger. But they're seeing Venezuela. The Colombia government, the government of Brazil are adding to this aggression for Venezuela politics because they're allegedly concerned. When you hear that word, you can be suspicious because something bad is coming. I'm concerned for Venezuela. And then again, they come with this. But let's move forward. $3,800 million for bombs and planes to kill what is left of the Palestinian children. Why the High Commissioner of the Human Rights is doing nothing? They're not doing anything. This group that is called the Facts Determination Groups to observe Venezuela. What is doing the Human Rights Committee of the United Nations? They can say, they can present in the place, but they will never do. Because deep down, they are being complice of these actions. So, always is good in this human right for the information and communication that the Venezuelan people knows about all this reality and how is acting in favor of you, Venezuelan citizen, pro-government or from the opposition, that we've been acting in favor of you and your family to keep Venezuela in a mood of peace and conciliation and unity. And this person that are living outside of the law, when the justice arrive, they cannot allegate that they're political prisoners because they have done everything to try to make a bloodbath here, but they're not going to accomplish. Thank you very much.
We were listening to the statements of Venezuela's Attorney General, who was addressing the media there at the head of the ministry. The official denounced and condemned the destabilization attempts by sectors of the far right ahead of the July 28th presidential elections and by the mafias operating from Bogota and the United States. Karek provided more details and evidence of the ongoing operations over the last month. The Attorney General also denounced the distorted reality that Western media portrays of Venezuela, how these media defend the people arrested and convicted as politically persecuted despite the evidence of their crimes. Stay tuned for now with TeleSUR for future news briefs for more details. But for now, we have come to the end of this one. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.